Hello everybody, welcome back to Reading for Vocabulary. I'm Brian Stewart. Hey, we're continuing on our subject about robots. In fact, we're talking about robot actors in this lesson. Robot actors. So we're going to learn about some robots in movies. Wow, exciting, right? Maybe your favorite subject. Who knew English could be so fun, right? So this is a good subject. Do you know this movie? Of course you do. It's Transformers. Everybody knows the Transformers. This is a good movie as an example to show robots as actors in movies. And that's what this lesson is about today. Let's take a look though at the vocabulary. So let's start. Whoa, I'm sorry. We went from a very exciting picture to a very difficult picture. What is all this math? And look at this boy. He looks very serious, doesn't he? Okay. Someone who is very smart. Someone who is very smart. If this boy can do all of these math problems, I don't even know what these math problems are. If he can do those, he is a genius. He's a genius. Genius. Are you a genius? Are you really, really smart in math? Are you really smart in languages? Or maybe you're smart in something else. There are different types of geniuses, right? So maybe you're a genius in one area or another, okay? So a person who's very smart is a genius. Okay, next one, far away. So if that city is really far away, we can say it is distant, distant. If you see mountains very far away, those mountains are distant, distant, far away. Okay, next one. To change into something else, okay? So a long time ago, this was all rock, but water and wind came through and changed these rocks into very interesting shapes. What happened? They transformed. Transform. Trans, of course, is across, and form is shape, so across different shapes. Transform. This is a verb, to change into something else. Remember the movie poster we saw at the beginning? Transformers. Of course, those are about robots that can change their shape into something else. And we'll read about that in the passage. Whoa, there's a funny guy, right? He's a funny looking guy. Maybe he wants to hide himself. To hide yourself by looking different, right? He doesn't look like that. He doesn't have such big eyebrows. He doesn't have a big nose or a mustache. But he put it on. Maybe he wants to hide who he really is. So what is he doing? He is disguising. To disguise yourself, right? Also, disguise can be a noun also, right? But here it is a verb. In this definition, to hide, that is a verb, but it can also be a noun. The glasses with the big nose and the mustache, that is a disguise. So you put on a disguise. You can put on a disguise. So you can use disguise as a verb or as a noun. If you use it as a noun, you can say put on a disguise. Put on a disguise. And disguise can be clothes too. If you want to hide your true identity, you don't want anybody to know who you are. Put on a disguise. Disguise yourself. Okay, next one. Hey, you know this guy, right? That's Spider-Man, the amazing Spider-Man. He's the good character in a story. Now, unfortunately, in many stories, Spider-Man, people think he's a bad guy, right? But Spider-Man's he's really the good guy. Who is he? He's the hero. He's the hero of the movie. The good character. The person who does good things and helps other people. That is the hero of the movie. Okay? Now, movies usually have heroes, but then also movies have somebody who fights against the hero, the main bad character in a story. And these are the people who fight against the hero, right? So movies, of course, many movies show conflict. You have good and evil. good guys, bad guys, and they're fighting against each other. Well, the heroes are the good guys. Who are the bad guys? What do we call them? We can call them villain. A villain is a bad guy. So villains are the bad characters in movies. The villains are fighting the heroes of the movies. Who wins? Well, usually in a movie, the hero wins, right? Usually, especially movies about superheroes, the good guy always wins, doesn't he? Or she. There's lots of female heroes too, super action or superheroes that are female as well. So it's the good guy or the good girl who always wins in these types of movies, right? But the villains usually lose. Okay. Not caring if you hurt others. So if somebody doesn't care if you hurt others, this is a bad thing, right? It's not a good thing. It's what the villain would do, right? The villains are ruthless. Ruthless is an adjective. It's an adjective. It's used to describe what somebody is like. What is their personality like? What is their character like? They are ruthless. It means they don't care if they hurt other people. That's very bad, right? A person who doesn't care if they hurt other people, right? They just do what they want. They want to get what they want. They don't care about other people. That's ruthless. It's bad. That would be a villain, a bad guy, or a bad character. Okay. Using great force to hurt others. Like in this movie, oh no, he is kicking him right there. That looks very painful, right? So what is this? This is violent. This is violent action. Violent is also an adjective. It's an, oh, that's so strange, J, isn't it? It's an adjective. Violent. It's a violent scene. It's a violent act. He's a violent person. So we use violent as an adjective in front of a noun to show that something or somebody is using great force to hurt other people. It's a violent movie. It's a violent scene. It's a violent person. Okay? So violent is an adjective to describe person, place, thing. Okay, next one. Do you remember this movie? I don't know if you remember it. It's a little bit old, right? Maybe before you were born. I don't know. It's, of course, called RoboCop. It was a cool movie, the first one, right? There's been others, too. But this is RoboCop. He's part human, part robot, right? Part machine. But he's human inside. And this, of course, is just a robot. To show as a main part. Now, to show as a main part, we are to feature. So RoboCop features this character here, and also this is the bad guy in the end of the movie. This is also a part of the movie. To show as a main part, the main part of a movie, especially, is the feature. For example, this is usually used to describe the actors or actresses in a movie. For example, you can say, the new movie is going to feature Brad Pitt. That means Brad Pitt will be a main part of the movie. You could also say, the new movie will feature New York, which means a place. New York, the setting, the place will be a main part of the movie. So to show as a main part, it can be a person, it can be a thing, it can be, a machine, an animal. It could be anything, really. It's just a main part of something. It features that thing or that person. Okay. What we use to speak and write. What am I using right now to speak to you? I'm using English, right? What is English? English is a language. Of course, you normally use Korean to speak and write. That is your language. Right now, you are learning a different language. You're learning English. So language is what we use to speak and write. Notice that this is not language. Be careful. These, I would call these letters. Not alphabets. Don't say these are alphabets. These are letters. Alphabet is the whole set of letters from A to Z in English. The whole set is alphabet. Individual symbols are letters, okay? And of course, letters are part of language. These letters are part of the English language. These letters are a feature of the English language. Okay, see how we work the vocabulary together. Okay, next one. Oh, what happened to him? I think he's drinking too much, right? Very dangerous. Okay, well, he fell down and he's probably pushing the horn, a short, high-pitched sound. So maybe it goes beep, beep, right? Look at that. That's the word. Some words in English are the same as the sound that they make, right? So if you push the horn on a car, right? The horn on a car, it makes a high-pitched sound. We say that sound is a beep, and that's what it sounds like. It's beep, beep. The sound and the word are the same. Sometimes we hear that, right? Sometimes that's true in English, okay? So that's a good word there to show that the word and the sound are the same thing. Okay. Next, to be successful in a game or fight. Oh, what happened here? We can see what happened very easily. These two ladies were playing a game. One person is going to do what? One person is going to win. The other person is going to lose. So, who do you think won? Who do you think lost? Win is a irregular verb. So I said won. Win, won, won. Who won? She won, obviously. Who lost? Oh, lose, lost, lost, right? She lost, okay? So somebody will win, somebody will lose. After the game, who won? She won, she lost, okay? So which team won? That team won, that team lost. Okay, next word. Wow, this is a big airplane, right? This is a plane driven by jet engines. Jet engine is here and here. Now, a long time ago, there were no jet engines. Planes used propellers. Now, I'm not a very good artist, so I'm trying to draw these. It looks like a flower, doesn't it? But these things would spin really fast, and they would catch the air and push the plane forward. And these were called propellers. Propeller. A propeller plane. So we said propeller plane, or sometimes people say prop plane. Propeller plane or prop plane. But then, of course, technology improves. Now we have jet engines. What kind of plane do we call that? We call that a jet. So it's really the same thing. A jet engine, it's a jet. If it has a jet engine, oh, there's two more over here too. Whew, don't forget those. Okay? If it has a jet engine, it is a jet. Okay. Oh, that's too bad. What happened here? A problem or difficulty, right? There's a problem with the engine in this car. So a problem or difficulty is trouble. Now this is a good picture to show for this word, because in this case we can say she has car trouble. And that's a very common expression, right? She has car trouble. Do you have car trouble? If your car breaks down. It's a very common expression. Do you have car trouble? Or she has car trouble. Okay, interesting expression. Okay, next, a vehicle for carrying goods. Now, a vehicle for carrying goods, this is a special type of vehicle. You would not call this a car. It's not a car, it's a truck. A truck is a big vehicle, and it has a big area, a big space. You can put many things inside, whether it's rocks like this, or sometimes it's all closed and it has a roof and it has a door back here, and you can put stuff inside. That's a tractor trailer, okay, that carries, you know, like electronic goods from the factory to the store, or many other types of products, okay? There's many different kinds of trucks. Also a pickup truck, which is smaller. One person uses, and they can put their furniture or their tools in the back of the truck and drive to the job, but it's much smaller. Trucks are different shapes and sizes. Okay. Oh, you know this guy. Who is that? You've seen him in the movies before. That's George Clooney. So it's kind of an interesting picture, because here we have, oh, I think I know her too. She looks familiar. I can't remember her name. She was in the movie Fargo. Okay? So anyway, it's funny that they are famous actor and famous actress. They're watching the movies, which is the moving picture. Movies. These two people are famous in the movies. And they're in the theater right now watching a movie. So let's go see a movie. There's many expressions we can use with movie. Let's go see a movie. Go see a movie. Let's go see a movie, okay? Also we say movie theater. Movie theater. Okay, a movie theater. And that's where we see moving pictures. Moving pictures is not really a common expression anymore. It was a common expression when movies were first invented because people didn't know what movies were. They knew what pictures were, and when the pictures moved very quickly, they called it moving pictures. Oh, it's moving pictures. But nowadays we don't say moving pictures often, we say movie. Okay, of course, movies are very important in our lives. We probably watch many movies every week, every month, maybe even every day. Don't watch too many movies though. It's not good for your brain, okay? Take it easy. Okay, now let's go over the vocabulary exercises now. How well do we remember those words that we just learned? Here we need to complete each sentence with a word from the box. So we have many words in the box here, and we have sentences on this and the other slides that we need to fill in the blank with the proper word. Let's review the words real quick. The words in the box are, first, genius, genius, that's better. Distant, distant. Transform, transform. Disguised, disguised. Next is hero, hero. Then villain, villain. Next is ruthless, ruthless. And then violent, violent. Okay, those are our words. Where do we put these words in the sentence? Which word goes with which sentence? Let's find out. Number one, though she is little, although she is little, even though she is little, she is a beep in mathematics. Okay, now this is kind of a strange thing because it doesn't really matter that she's little. I mean, maybe it's because, maybe you could say even though she is young, she's little. Maybe she's a little girl, right, that they're talking about. You don't expect young children to be very what in mathematics? Very smart? Yeah, you don't expect children to be very smart in mathematics because most children are just learning mathematics. But if you find a child or some children or a girl, a little boy who is very good at mathematics, we can call them what? They're very smart, right? They are a genius in mathematics. So even though she's a little girl, even though she's young, she is a genius in mathematics. Okay, we don't expect that. So that's why we say though, even though. It's not expected, it's unexpected. Number two, the beep businessman made little children work too much. That's a bad businessman. Terrible. He doesn't care about the feelings or the welfare of other people. He doesn't care about other people. He just wants to get what he wants. This is really bad. Bad person. What did we say about, what word do we use to describe people who don't care about other people? We say that those people are ruthless. They are ruthless. So a ruthless businessman will make children work too much. Actually, just making children work is ruthless, right? And especially too much, that's terrible. Businessmen shouldn't make children work at all. Children should not work. They should have fun and go to school, right? They're learning. They shouldn't work until they get older, right? Making children work is ruthless. Number three, the king beep himself as a beggar. This is interesting. So imagine, sometimes you hear about this in stories, right? You hear about a king who wants to know about the ordinary people. So he wants to change his appearance so nobody will recognize him. He wants to what? He wants to disguise himself. So the king disguised himself as a beggar so he could go out and talk to people normally so they wouldn't think that, oh, he's the king, you know. They would tell him what they really thought. Okay? Sometimes we hear stories like that. That's a common idea in many stories. Okay, number 4. The magician. Magician, a person who performs magic tricks. The magician has an ability to beep into a bird. What would a magician do? What can a magician do? It can do something into a bird to perhaps change himself into a bird, to change his form into a bird and fly away. That would be a great magic trick, right? Well, what word here means to change into something else? Of course, you're probably looking at this word here, transform. The magician has an ability to transform into a bird, to change himself into a bird. That's pretty cool. 5. Usually the beep in a movie does not die. Now, think about that. We're talking about characters in a movie, right? We talked about there are good characters and there are bad characters. The good characters are the heroes. The bad characters are the villains. Which ones usually don't die, especially in movies like superheroes and things like that? Of course, the hero in a movie does not die. Usually. Doesn't say always, usually. In some movies, yes, the hero dies. Those are sad movies, right? But usually action movies or superhero movies, the hero doesn't die. The hero wins, right? That's what the movie's about. Good always wins in those movies. But the hero does not die. Okay, next one. Even though he is a nice person, so even though, despite something unexpected, right? Even though he is a nice person, he usually plays the beep in movies. So he's a nice person, but even though he's a nice person, despite that fact, something unexpected, he usually plays, and that means he acts as what in the movies? So we're looking for something opposite of a nice person. What's the opposite of the nice person or the good guy? The opposite, of course, is the villain, right? Even though he is a nice person, he usually plays the villain in movies. So he's a nice actor, the person is nice, but he plays a bad guy in the movies, right? He plays a villain. That makes sense. Okay. 7. I don't like to watch TV because most programs are too what? What are most programs on television? Maybe somebody doesn't like it. Maybe they don't like the people are always fighting, or that maybe somebody dies. What kind of movies are those? Those are violent movies. I don't like to watch TV because most programs are too violent. That person doesn't like the violence on the movies. Number 8, she lives in a beep city. It's the only word left, okay? Of course, we're looking at this word. She lives in a distant city. That means far away. Morowayo, right? Morowayo. She lives in a faraway city. It's funny in Korean, when I was learning Korean, it's very 재밌어요, because in Korean, you know, you say yogi is here, chogi is over there, and chagi is over there, right? So that would be chagi would be like distant, right? Far away, distant, okay? That's just, it's just kind of funny. 재밌어요. Okay, so that wraps up the vocabulary section of this lesson. Let's take a short break. We'll come back and we'll do the reading. Okay, welcome back, guys. Are you ready to read about robots in the movies? I am. I hope you are too. Let's start by reading the first part together. Let's begin. For many years now, robots have been the stars of movies. Sometimes the robots are from a different planet. Other times, they are built by a genius scientist. But one thing is always the same. Some are good and some are evil. So what we can see in this passage is they're talking about different types of robots in the movies, right? Not real robots, but in the movies, right? So, and of course for many years now. So this is kind of like a common idea. It's not a recent idea. It's been an old idea, right? For many years, for many decades, okay? For a long time, robots have been characters in movies. And we think about that, you know, there have been movies from the 1950s and 1960s, black and white movies that show robots. Especially I remember one movie where the robot comes down and says, "Take me to your leader." Okay, that was a very old movie. But it means for a long time, robots have been the stars of movies. They've been the main characters of movies. Now, Sometimes means not always, but in some cases, and then we hear other times. So we're going to hear about sometimes it's true this way, but sometimes it's true the other way, okay? Well, first, sometimes the robots are from a different planet. So that's kind of a common idea. In some movies, the robots come from another planet. But in other times, in other movies, the robots are built by a genius scientist here on Earth, right? So they're talking about different types of robots in the movies. You know, sometimes they come from different planets, but in other movies, they're built by scientists here on Earth. They don't come from other planets. But one thing is always the same. That means that, you know, sure, there are different types of robots. They come from different places, but it doesn't matter where they come from. One thing stays the same. One thing doesn't change. It's always the same. What is it? Some are good and some are evil. So we always have good robots or we have bad robots. It doesn't matter where they're from. It doesn't matter if they came from outer space. It doesn't matter if they were built on Earth. Some are good, some are evil. That's always the same. That's the common or the same idea in all the different movies about robots. They're good or they're bad. So, have you ever seen the movie Transformers? It's about robots from a distant planet. The robots in this movie transform into different things. Okay, so of course, I'm sure you've seen this movie, Transformers. Of course you have. Who hasn't seen the movie Transformers, right? So have you ever seen it? Yes, I'm sure you have. What it's about, the movie is about robots from a distant planet. Remember, distance is joggy, right? So a very planet that's very far away. These robots came to Earth from a very far away planet. The robots in this movie transform. They change into different things. That's why they're called Transformers. And you know that they usually change into cars or airplanes, things like that, because you saw the movie. They look like this. Sometimes they look like big people in big armored suits, but they can change themselves into cars and airplanes and things like that. Optimus Prime, right, I have to say it in a deep voice. Optimus Prime, right? You know him, right? He is the main hero in the movie. Optimus Prime is one of the heroes in the movie, The Transformers. He disguises himself by changing into a truck. So you know the character Optimus Prime. He is one of the heroes. He disguises. So he doesn't want people on Earth to know he's this big robot, right? So he transforms himself into a truck, and that's his disguise. Remember, disguise is a verb and a noun. Here it's used as a verb. He disguises himself, right? We usually use this reflexive pronoun with disguise. I will disguise myself. Will you disguise yourself? Right? That's a verb. But you could say that the truck is his disguise. The truck is his disguise. What is your disguise? My disguise is a beggar. My disguise is as a repair person, right? So you could disguise yourself. What is your disguise? Or how will you disguise yourself? Optimus Prime disguises himself into it by changing into a truck. That's his disguise. This is Optimus Prime, doesn't want people to know he's a robot. The evil robots in the movie transform too. Megatron is a villain who can change into a jet. He is a ruthless robot. Okay, so what do we have here? He, of course, refers, back to Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime doesn't want people to know he's a robot. He tries to hide, right? Like I said before, he doesn't want people on Earth to know he's a robot. They go, oh my God, there's a robot, right? They might be afraid, but they're not afraid when they see a truck. So, he changes into a robot. Now, the evil robots in the movie, not Optimus Prime, these are the other robots, the evil robots, right? They also transform. They can change too. Megatron, he's the leader of the evil robots, right? He's the villain. He's the main bad guy, the main bad character. He can change into a jet. So he doesn't change into a truck or a car. He changes into a jet plane, a plane that uses a jet engine. He is a ruthless robot. He doesn't care about other people. He doesn't care about killing the people on Earth. All he wants is what he wants, right? He just cares about what he wants and what his goals are. He doesn't care about anybody else, so he is ruthless. Okay? I think that's Megatron there. Okay. Okay, I think this is a scene from Transformers. Of course, we have the different robots here. They're not transformed into their disguises. They are not disguised. They are as they are as robots. Okay. Okay, he. Here, the next part starts off with he. Let's just check this out. Of course, we're talking about Megatron, right? Megatron from a couple slides ago. So he refers back to Megatron. Megatron won't stop fighting until he takes over the Earth. Optimus Prime fights Megatron to save our planet. Who do you think wins? Okay, so again, like I said, he refers back to Megatron. Megatron won't stop fighting. He won't stop fighting. What is his goal? Like I said, he's ruthless. All he cares about is his goal. What is his goal? He wants to take over the Earth. He wants to control the Earth. And he doesn't care who gets hurt or who gets killed in his way. He just wants to take over the Earth. He wants to control the Earth. So, Optimus Prime, he's the good guy. He will fight Megatron to save the planet. Now, before we talked about win and lose. Somebody always wins, somebody always loses. Who do you think wins? Well, of course, if you've seen the movie, you know that the good guys win in Transformers, and usually the good guys win in these movies. So the robots in movies aren't always violent, right? The Transformers movie is kind of violent. It shows robots hitting each other, a lot of violence, great force is used, right? But the robots in movies aren't always violent. In 1977, the movie Star Wars featured two kind and helpful robots. Their names were C-3PO and R2-D2. They may be robots, but they are also best friends. And you can see them here. If you don't recognize them, oh, that's terrible. You should watch this movie. It's a very important movie. Okay, even though it's 1977, I know it's a long time ago, but it's a very good movie. You should not miss that movie. Okay, let's go over this. So, we just talked about Transformers, right? And this sentence is kind of a transition between Transformers and Star Wars. We talked about Transformers, now we're going to talk about Star Wars, and we show that transition. We tell the reader that that's what's going to happen by saying robots in movies aren't always violent. Yes, they're violent in Transformers, but in Star Wars they aren't violent. In fact, C-3PO and R2-D2, they never hurt anybody in the movies, the Star Wars. They never really hurt anybody. In 1977, I know it's a long time ago. Me too, I think it's a long time ago. The movie Star Wars showed as its main part, right? Featured two kind and helpful robots. These two guys were helpful. They were kind. Their names were C-3PO and R2-D2. Who's C-3PO? This guy here is C-3PO. Don't forget the dash. C-3PO. And this guy here is R2-D2. R2-D2. And R2-D2 always went beep, 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 beep. He never spoke, right? Okay. They may be robots, but they are also best friends. You can see they're friends with each other. They like each other, right? And they also did not hurt anybody. They kind of walked around and they got into trouble many times. They always escaped, but they helped the other characters in the movie, and they never really hurt anybody. Even if it was a bad person, they didn't really hurt them. Okay. Together, right, together, they, C-3PO and R2-D2, help the heroes in the movie get out of trouble. Okay, we talked about that. C-3PO can speak many different languages. So his main power was that he could speak many different languages. He could translate also for people. He talks just like a real person. R2-D2 can only make robot sounds and beeps. but C3PO understands everything that R2-D2 says. Okay, so let's go over this a little bit. Like I said before, these two robots, they, R2-D2 and C3PO, they helped the heroes in the movie. When the heroes in the movie got in trouble, the robots helped get them out of trouble. Now, C3PO could speak a lot of different languages. He could speak many different languages. He could translate. Maybe if you learn many different languages, maybe when you grow up, you can be a translator, right? You can do the job that C3PO did, right? He, C3PO, talks just like a real person. Well, he had kind of an interesting accent. Excuse me, may I help you, please? Okay? He kind of spoke like that, but it's kind of like a real person. R2-D2 can only make robot sounds. Robot sounds, they were kind of like that, robot sounds, okay? And beeps, beep, 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 right? Sounds just like the word is. Okay. But C3PO understands everything that R2-D2 says. That means that even though R2-D2 could only make robot sounds in these beeps, C3PO could understand R2-D2. In fact, in the movie, the only character that could understand R2-D2 was C3PO. Okay? If C3PO wasn't around, R2-D2 had a hard time talking to people or letting them know what he was thinking. Okay. Make-believe robots are interesting. They can do much more than the robots we have today. Maybe one day, robots will be like the ones we see in movies. So this is an interesting part of the passage here. What it's saying is that, make-believe. Make-believe means not real. Things that people think of or that you have an idea. It's like fantasy. It's not real. And of course, what we see in the movies, especially with robots, it's not real, right? It's make-believe. Somebody invented them. It's not true. It's not actual. It is make-believe. Well, of course, they're interesting. Any make-believe character is interesting, especially in the movies. The robots, can do much more than the robots we have today. Before we learned about robots today can only do really very simple things, right? They can only do one task at a time. Robots in the movies, they can do many different things. They can think for themselves. They can carry on a conversation with people. They're interesting characters. So those robots in the movies can do much more than the robots we have today. But maybe one day in the future, robots will be like the ones we see in the movies. That's an interesting thing. How long will it take? Do you think robots can be like C3PO or R2-D2 or Optimus Prime? I hope not like Megatron. That would be terrible, right? But will robots one day be able to do things like C3PO and R2-D2? Will they be like the robots in the movies? That would be very interesting, very exciting thing to think about. Okay. Would you like to see a talking robot? How about a robot trying to take over Earth? Okay, I talked about that a little bit. So one day in the future, we might be able to see a talking robot, or a robot that can speak. Actually, we can see those now. If you look on the internet, there are videos of robots. I think there's a robot in Japan that can talk to people, right? Of course, it's a recorded voice. It's a computer that's talking to people, but it's a robot that's actually talking to people. Pretty cool. So we can see that now. But how about a robot trying to take over Earth, like this robot? We don't want to see that robot, right? I hope we never see that type of robot. Okay? So we don't want to see this robot, but maybe we want to see this robot. That would be cool and interesting. Okay, let's go over the reading comprehension questions. This story is about. What is this story about? Okay? What is the overall subject of this story? Is this story about Optimus Prime? No. Optimus Prime was just one part of this story or this reading passage. He was used as an example of something else. So that he's not the main thing that this story is about. It's not about that character, right? It's not about Optimus Prime. It's not about Megatron only. It's not about C3PO or R2-D2. It's about what they are, really, okay? This story is about talking robots. No, because the passage wasn't talking about robots that could talk, right? It was talking about robots that were where? That were in the movies. And that's actually D, right? Robots in the movies. And not about violent robots, because as we saw, R2-D2 and C3PO, they were not violent. So the answer is, this story is about robots in movies. Okay? So that's what the main subject is for this reading passage. We're talking about different robots in movies, how interesting they are. They have many different functions. They may come from distant planets. They may be invented here on Earth, but they're always, some are good and some are evil. That's true. And then we saw many different examples. Optimus Prime was just one example of robots in the movies. Okay. Number 2, Optimus Prime disguises himself, and then we need to finish the sentence. So Optimus Prime disguises himself as a jet. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? But be careful, it's not Optimus Prime who disguises himself as a jet. That was Megatron, right? So A is not right, okay? Optimus Prime disguises himself because he doesn't like being a robot. Optimus Prime is sad, but I don't like being a robot. So he's going to change into something else. He's going to disguise himself. No, that's not the reason that he disguised himself. Remember, the passage said, he doesn't want other people to know he's a robot. That's the true reason. D, so people don't know he's a robot. That's why. And not so Megatron can't find him. The passage didn't say that. The passage didn't say anything about him being able to disguise himself as a truck so that Megatron couldn't find him. The passage said he disguises himself as a truck so people don't know he's a robot. Okay? That's what the passage said. And I added to that for my own knowledge because he didn't want to scare people, right? Okay, but the passage said that he disguised himself so people don't know he's a robot. He wanted to hide his true identity. Okay, 3. In movies, robots are what? Always evil? Are robots always evil? No, it said that one thing is true. Robots, whether they're from other planets or from Earth, one thing's always true. Some are good, some are bad. So always evil? No, that's not true. You could say in movies robots are sometimes evil. That would be true, but this says always evil, so that's not true. A is not the answer. In movies, robots are always just like people. No, we saw the example of R2-D2. R2-D2 is not like people. People don't go around going beep, 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 beep. They don't do that. Okay? So that's not true. That's not right. In movies, robots are always violent. No, C3PO and R2-D2 weren't violent, so that doesn't fit. In movies, robots are sometimes built by a genius scientist. That's the answer, right? Because it said sometimes robots are from a distant planet. Other times, and that means the same thing as sometimes, they are built by a genius scientist. So D is the right answer. In movies, robots are sometimes, not always, but sometimes built by a genius scientist. That's true. Okay, next one. C3PO and R2-D2 are robots that what? We're looking for something that they do. That are best friends. Is that true? Well, actually, that is true. That's our answer. C3PO and R2-D2 are robots that are best friends. That's what it said in the passage. Let's look at B, C, and D just to make sure. They are robots that can both speak many different languages. No, that's not true. R2-D2 only speaks in robot language, right? He can't talk in other languages. Only C3PO can understand him. Are robots that fight to save our planet? No. As we saw in the passage, they are not violent. They don't fight, right? So that's not true. And they are robots that are in the movie Transformers? No, they're not in Transformers. They're in the movie Star Wars, right? That's true. So this is incorrect. So the only correct answer is C3PO and R2-D2 are robots that are best friends. And that's what the reading passage said. Okay, so what did we learn about robot actors in this lesson? We learned that the movie Transformers is about robots from a distant planet. The robots came from a far, far away planet. The robots in this movie transform into different things. They transform, that's why the movie is named Transformers, because they change into different things. Optimus Prime changes into a truck. Megatron changes into a jet. They transform into different things. In 1977, the movie Star Wars featured two kind and helpful robots. Now, you all know Transformers. I'm sure you've seen that. That's a recent movie. You may not have heard of Star Wars. That's a shame. Go see that movie sometime if you get a chance. It's a very important movie, very good movie. Many people know that movie. You will see two kind and helpful robots, C-3PO and R2-D2, and they aren't violent, but they will help the main characters get out of many types of trouble. Okay, so that's very interesting. It's fun to look at the movies. It's fun to look at robots in the movies. Like the passage said, you know, we can look at robots in the movies and think, wow, someday maybe robots will be like the robots in the movies. But sometimes we don't want that, right? Because we don't want evil robots. We want kind and helpful robots, especially robots that can talk to us, that can do work for us, that can help make our lives better. That will be a very interesting future. Okay, well, that wraps it up for today. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.